when I did that, somebody that I knew from the past was like, oh, well, they made like a snarky remark about the house that we live in right now.
Hey Onyx fam, I need some advice. I just started my own business and it's going great. Good job.
Okay, yeah, good job.
But my two best friends who are twins have been acting really weird about it.
Okay,
twins. They've been making snarky comments like saying it must be easy to run a business and it isn't a real job. And whenever I share good news, they just roll their eyes or make me feel like I'm bragging. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So they said, here's the twist. I just found out they've been secretly working on their own startup and have been struggling to get it off the ground. And I think that's the reason why they have been acting salty towards me.
Haters.
okay.
So she also said, I don't want to lose my friendship, but I also don't want to hide my success. So how do I handle their jealousy without causing any drama?
Well, first off, why do you want to be friends with someone who's jealous of you? That's like a red flag.
How
right
long
there.
has she been friends with these friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
She didn't include it, but it seems like
it could be like child. Okay, if they're like new friends, I can understand. I could be like, hey, just cut them off. You just made friends with them.
Yeah.
But I can understand it being harder if, like, just say they were childhood friends, right?
Right.
And she's expecting, hey, we grew up together and everything like that. I'm expecting, support.
Right. I really wish she did say if it was childhood friends or if it was new friends she made. I mean, she still seems young, so she probably had friends.
does it
before.
really
Oh,
matter?
true.
She's 19.
Well, if it was
so-
childhood friends, what would be the difference advice that you would give her, Shane?
If it was childhood friends, I would. Man, I don't know.
Does it really matter?
I'm just saying that it would be easier to cut someone off if you were just
I
if
would
you
say
just
that
met
too.
them. I just mean it's
because
easier.
you don't have an emotional connection to them.
Well, is the solution to cut them off? Is that the solution? Or?
No, but I don't think that that's the ultimate solution. But if that was the solution, then I know that it would be easier if it wasn't childhood friends.
because you're not connected to them for
But
Yeah.
I
so
think,
long.
honestly, one of the advice I would give her is to honestly take business off the conversation whenever she converses or hangs out with these two friends. I think that's something that's probably a touchy subject for them to really, discuss amongst each other. So maybe that's something that they should just, not really.
Just not talk about business
Just
with
stay
them.
clear off the whole subject of business and entrepreneurship.
Right. Or maybe the two twin friends should maybe just consider what their friend is doing and just be like, oh, maybe we can ask her for tips. Maybe we can be able to just,
I don't know if they're already jealous. I don't know about asking for tips
Yeah,
because if the tips
because
don't work, then it's like, oh, I guess it just works for you.
It seems like they're.
Question. Oh, okay. So she included they're making a startup and everything. Did they make a startup because they were jealous, or were they already working on it and then they thought that she took the idea from them?
They probably thought that, if she can do it, we can do it too, and maybe we can even do it better. And maybe they see that it's not really going
actually
that
hard.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have had friends in the past where there's been some challenges as far as them understanding what you're doing or just kind of hating on what you're doing as well. And I felt like you guys' approach was a pretty humble approach. Like you didn't cut them off. I don't feel like you cut them off.
Well-
but I feel like they kind of drifted
Distanced
away.
themselves.
No,
They-
it was a cutoff. It was a cutoff. It wasn't a drift away. It was definitely a cutoff. But it wasn't on our end. It was on their end.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys did not choose to cut them off, but they ended up kind of like
Cutting us
drifting
off.
away or cutting you guys off.
It wasn't a distancing away.
Well, then
I feel like a distancing away is different than a cutoff because I feel like a drifting away is like you're still cordial, you still like acknowledge each other, but you don't like talk a
Right.
lot. That's kind of like to me a drifting away situation. A
Right.
cutoff is like you don't talk, you unfollow, that's a cutoff.
So then in the situation that you guys went through, you chose not to cut off childhood friends, and they ended up cutting you off because of the jealousies or the misunderstandings and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like, why do you still say there's a difference between a childhood friend now? And
No,
that
I
you,
would just
that
say
you would
I'm
not
not
cut them
saying
off.
that they should cut them off, but I'm saying just say that was their solution. I'm just acknowledging that it would probably be harder if it was a childhood friend versus someone you just met because they weren't in. If someone you just met recently and they weren't in your life for a long period
Right.
of time, it's not gonna feel the same emotional like connection.
Right. Well, I still think it was I think it's
But I think a better solution is to first talk things out and just
Try
address
to work it out.
Address it, try to work it out. If it can't be worked out, then I feel like you can distance yourself from that topic
because
of
the more
conversation.
successful she grows, the more
Yeah.
they're gonna be jealous of her.
I just find it interesting that prepare yourself for them to possibly cut you off too.
Right.
Because at the end of the day,
Right.
like that's kind of how when people hate on you, that's kind of like where it's going. There's gonna be a distance. Either you cut them off or they're gonna cut you off. But
Right, exactly.
But what
Like-
I don't get is that why do you want to become friends with someone who's not on your like?
Well, it's not
say
about
like
becoming.
twins.
You were already friends with them.
No, why can't the twins just have someone who just has a higher stance and has a higher level of just like elevating themselves, but instead they choose to have someone probably be friends with someone who's just on their level or probably even lower.
You're
instead-
asking why did the twins feel jealous?
No, why do they feel as if they have to cut off their one friend who's successful, but then manage to make friends who are not? As
But this is not a
successful?
question about the twins. This is the person saying
Should
what
she
should the
keep the
person's friend with the
friendship or
twins?
should
Should
she
she keep
not?
the friendship or not keep the friendship?
Oh,
with
it
the
depends
twins?
on what the twins and how they react and everything like that.
They react really negatively. So what do you think? Though?
Yeah, but like,
Well, then you gotta
are
react
they-
negatively back.
They?
Wait, wait,
I'm kidding.
Are you saying?
So, are they only negative on the business side, or are they also
That's
negative
my
on
question.
the friend side?
If they, well, but I don't know. What do you mean on the friend side?
Okay.
Because that's part of friendship is supporting.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there are some things you can just like let slide. Like
In friendship, I mean,
you can
I
just
think,
like
I think
ignore
it depends.
them whenever they're talking about business and everything. But like if they're attacking you negatively on all fronts, then yes, cut them off. But if there's like one thing they're not doing, that's like okay, probably just like ignore them or like not like give.
Yeah,
them
are they
any
supportive in
attention.
every other area of your life? It's I don't know. That is a tricky thing. Like, is it like, oh, if they're supportive of every other area, are they actively saying something against your business or just not interested in it? Because I think there's also a difference with that. Are they just not interested in it, or are they literally saying,
because
I don't like your
it
business?
sounds like hating because they're secretly trying to be successful. And then
Right.
hating on you because you are successful.
true,
so
true.
Right.
it does sound like hating.
But what if someone is generally just not interested in what you're doing? Do you think it's still fun?
I don't think snarky comments come from someone just not interested.
Oh, true. They said snarky comments.
I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
the reality is you got to give people a grace period, but then after a while, I think you definitely have to make a decision about the friendship because
Right.
so much of what you do in life is connected to your purpose.
Right.
So
True.
So you can't really just say, okay, this one area I'm just not going to talk about
'Cause that's your daily
it's
life.
who you are, and regardless of whether or not you talk about it, they will probably know anyway. So if you're someone like, let's say you travel a lot, if you say, yeah, I'm not going to talk about my business, but then you're calling them and they're like, where are you? Oh, I'm in Dubai. It doesn't matter. Like it's going to come into the friendship
Right.
regardless. And then you have to just make a decision on, you know. And this is the thing, not all people need an abrupt, like, I am going to cut you off now. Some you just let drift.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
just let it go because
go.
you never know. They might get over that, you know, based off of whatever's going on in their life, or you might not feel as hurt later. It does, you know, you guys might reconnect, or it just means that the friendship was for a time. A lot of things are just for a time, for a season, and we have to be comfortable with that. Being a little older than you guys, or a lot older, I know that, like, I'm about 20 years older than you guys, so I already now know that certain friendships were just for a season.
Yeah.
And then that was that.
And you can cherish the
and
memories
exactly.
and-
Just cherish the memories.
yeah.
Right. You know, it's interesting, the whole concept of, there's another element to this, the whole concept of you never were friends in the first place. Like for instance, like if you knew that you didn't have something in the first place, then you may grieve the idea, like for instance, let's just say money. You know, you thought you had all this money in the bank, but then you never really had anything. And so you grieve the idea that you had money in the bank, but you don't grieve the actual money because you never had it in the first place. And when you realize that you don't have something in the first place, you can let it go easier because it was not yours. It never was there.
Or you set yourself in more delusion
Right.
because you're actively wishing for it.
So what are you saying, that they weren't friends in the beginning?
Well, that's one of the elements that you could consider, that maybe this was not even a friend in the
I
first
think
place.
they were. I think that they were. I just think as you get older, you realize that certain other things become more important. It's like, let's say, if a sibling was jealous of another sibling because of a relationship, it doesn't mean that they weren't a sibling before. It just means that as people get older and circumstances change, the things that are important to them, the priorities, it can cause some conflict because everyone now, after a certain age, now you're all wanting it. You're wanting health, you're wanting wealth, you're wanting relationships, you're wanting all these things. And I think in general, though, it just tests the characters. But it doesn't mean that you weren't friends. But this is the time where everybody, doesn't matter what you're going through, if somebody has something that you really want, you really have to really work on your character, because it's not their success does not take away from your success.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
But I think we need to also consider another element, and I'm not, I don't know this writer, and I just take it for face value, but sometimes when a person is successful, they give an air of importance, they give an air of arrogance. You know what I mean? Like they're not very humble, and maybe just stop and consider, how have I changed? How has my success changed my character, the way that I've been interacting in the relationship? Because, maybe if you sit down and you have a conversation with that person, it may come out that you actually did change. And the way that you're acting has really affected them.
On the flip side to that, though, success naturally does bring more confidence. So you will probably be acting with more confidence. You will probably have a different way of moving and talking than you did before. So that being said, it's like you can't say, okay, I'm going to diminish like my light because this person is feeling uncomfortable. Now, of course, you don't want to be arrogant, obviously, but but it's all very subjective, because what somebody would think is confidence, another person could say is arrogance. And so, you have to really be able to discern what the truth is.
That is true.
That's true. I never even thought about that.
Wow.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting. On one of my personal platforms, that I post like sometimes personal things. I was just posting like our journey of where we lived before versus where we live right now. And so there was several homes that I was posting on this personal website and saying, God has really blessed us. This is where we came from, and this is where we are right now. And I think I probably posted like a few apartments. Remember the Blue House?
Oh my goodness.
I posted the Blue House.
We used to live in this house, a rundown house called the Blue House, 'cause it was blue. Oh my goodness.
It was been like in the 40s.
Did you post the actual picture of the house?
No, I like blurred out certain things and stuff like that, so that no one would be able to do like a reverse search or anything like that. So anyhow, when I did that, somebody that I knew from the past was like, oh, well, they made like a snarky remark about the house that we live in right now.
About
almost
it
like,
being affordable because it's in a certain area of the country
it's
or
not,
something.
Your house is not in this part of the country.
Right.
But it was like, it seemed like a subtle dig at the fact that
don't think you're too high.
Right, don't think you're better than me.
Don't be, And it wasn't even like that. And we were talking about how God has brought us from a very far away. Like it was a starter home and whatever. And the person felt like everybody else is just like, praise God. Like that's so wonderful. That's great that, God did that. And this person felt like they had to like do a dig.
Was it someone you know?
You know what's so funny about it? Sometimes people can be like, they look at other comments and be like, oh wow, they have too much of these praise. Let me humble them a bit. Let me.
There is some people like that where they feel like they're putting someone's life to humble them.
So these actual challenges, they don't really change.
Right.
And they just get worse actually with age.
Right.
As
you get
know,
more
as you
desperate.
become more self-aware, as maybe late teenage years into early adulthood, you start thinking, oh man, you want to go to college or you want to be an entrepreneur, and people's rate of success and not just success, but rate of different blessings in their life come at different times. Some people get married in their early 20s. Some people get married in their early 30s. Some people, it's even later than that. But all of a sudden, we get trained that when we're in like school from like kindergarten to like, high school, every year we're all progressing and we're all doing the same thing. And we really think that that's the rest of life, that we'll all get to all of our destinations at the same time.
That is so interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, and we have to, as adults, really understand that once you leave that high school arena, once you leave childhood like that, everything else now is on your schedule, your timing that God has for you.
Right.
And it's not going to be equal, not even in the same family. So brothers and sisters can't look at it like that. Honestly, even husband and wives. There might be a time where a husband might be like getting a lot of success and the wife is not, and vice versa. And we all have to just really sit down and accept and really work on our characters, because that's the testing point. That's when there's a lot of conflict in marriage, or friendships start to break down, relationships, even with siblings, any other family members, they start to break down, because everyone's thinking this childhood ideology that we all need to be progressing all at the same time, and it's unrealistic.
And
so true.
just in life, period, just generally in life, not even in comparison to one another, but just in our own life, we need to settle with the fact that there are seasons in our lives.
Yes.
And one time it's winter, and things are, you're losing things, and then one time it's spring, and all of a sudden it's a new season for new growth and a resurgence. So just like how there's seasons in life, there's seasons in our life.
Yeah.
And even without comparing ourselves to other people, we have to get comfortable with those seasons.
Right.
That's
so
hard.
that's a message for the, I don't know if you want to share that with your friends, the twins. But also, if it just say it turns out that you really can't be friends with them anymore because they're just not supportive, and they're just like, it's probably showing up too many times. You have to acknowledge that, because she's like 19. Basically, you have to acknowledge that some friendships are for a time, and that you don't really, a lot of people think they're going to keep the same friends that they had when they were younger all the way up to their 50s, 60s, and that's a rare occasion, to be honest. You're going to make, especially you said you're in a growing, booming business, you're probably going to make friends in that industry, and those people are going to be your new close friends, and you're going to continue to get to know other people and network and everything. That actually might be more aligned with who you are now and who you grow into, more than who you used to be friends with.
19 is a very interesting age, because 19 means that you had graduated from high school more than likely last year.
Yeah.
And so you're in a transitionary spot. So if it is friends from high school, that's what kind of happens. We grow apart from friendships. Yeah. I mean, I still talk to some guys from my high school, but that's kind of rare. Like, there's a lot of people that don't still talk to.
No, but even when
friends.
you do, you don't talk to them like on the daily, though.
No.
And that's the
It's
thing.
not
It might even
like-
become a case where you pull back so much. You talk to them maybe like twice a year, because it's like you just kind of catch up.
Yeah. I think that there also is a opening really for them to be honest too, and literally say, why are you saying stuff like that? Really put them on the spot. Why? Like a snarky comment, like you hear one, and then you say, why did you say that?
Well, not
Why'd
everyone's
you
as
say it
bold
like
as
that?
you, mommy.
Well, I know.
And that's an interesting. That's an interesting point, because I think that we live in a society where everybody is like very soft.
Yeah.
And they equate softness and timidity or
Right. With niceness.
passivity with niceness.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily loving somebody.
No.
Sometimes loving someone is addressing an issue head on, and it may be a confrontation, but it doesn't have to be an aggressive confrontation.
Yeah, because sometimes that embarrassment is what that person needs to say, oh, why am I doing that?
Why am I doing that?
And then they
Right.
stop, because then they realize, like, why should they have all of this room to just be rude, but you think you're being nice by not saying anything? And
Right.
it doesn't mean that you have to be with an attitude. You can literally say,
Come on.
why are you saying that? Like, that's not confrontational. It's just a question. And if they go, saying what? And then you say, you said this. Like, don't let it go. You know what I'm saying? And then they say, I didn't say that. No, actually you did. And if they keep on denying it, fine, you can leave it. But now that they're put on notice,
Right. Now you
now
know,
when they say that,
you're willing
you'll
to
turn
lie
around and
also.
go, why?
Right.
Oh, she's not playing. She's not playing.
What do you call that?
Being assertive.
Assertive.
Being confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being assertive.
And to confront somebody with the truth, what is that? Like,
Being brave.
I'm not sure what exactly the word is, but I'm searching for that word because I think that, like we have things like joy, happiness, love, and I think that we tend to gravitate to certain words that is bright and cheery, but loving someone is also confronting sometimes.
Yes.
Justice sometimes takes a form of having to do something that is firm in order to, like, for instance, if somebody's in danger by a stranger, somebody, like I was watching, like, it was a TikTok or one of those things where it's like a social experiment. And then there was this guy, and he walked up to this little girl, and said, your mommy told me that I need to pick you up. And she's like, I don't know you. And she's like, yes, you do, whatever. But he was doing it in the presence of another guy. So it was like this one black guy, and then there was another black guy. And the question was, are you going to say anything? Are you going to confront? Or are you just going to, they're both on the bench.
Oh, okay.
Are you going to ignore the fact that you're overhearing this conversation and it's a potential that this little kid is going to be kidnapped?
Yeah.
And the other guy that was overhearing stood up and was like, listen, you need to move on. She says she doesn't know you. And he was like, no, she knows me. Don't worry. Hey, come with me. And she's like, listen, you need to go that way. And he stands up and he confronts the guy.
Yeah.
And says, she's staying with me and you're heading that way.
Yeah.
So he asserted himself. And that is also love. Love is to stand up and assert yourself to protect the innocent.
Wow.
And I'm just saying, a lot of times, so many bad things happens in society because people are so focused on being nice or polite when the circumstance doesn't require nice and polite.
Right.
It requires you to stand up and make sure that justice is served.
Right. Whether for someone else or for yourself, standing up for yourself is just as important.
Are you saying the other guy didn't have the same intention?
No, the other guy was just playing. It was a role play. It was a role play. It was a social experiment.
Yes, but the one that they were testing.
Yeah, he didn't know what was going on. He was just acting natural.
It's like a what would you do situation.
What would you do?
You know that show, What Would You Do?
And a lot of times in these social experiments, people actually walk by those things and they just ignore it. And you're just you're sitting there did you not hear that this child was in danger and you just walk by? And a lot of times they say, I just didn't want to get involved.
Yeah. Who knows if that guy has a gun?
We definitely have a very soft society. And I like what you were saying, Sinead, about we got to stand up for ourselves. We have to stand up for ourselves. You don't have to be a doormat. People keep on, they swinging from one end to the other. Oh, you're a doormat? Or if you even have a hint of standing up for yourself, all of a sudden now you're the bully.
Right.
They keep throwing these words around, bully, and oh, you're not nice, and all of these things. And we just have to get back to common sense.
Yeah.
And we have to be, and then the sad part is people jump all the way to cutting off, I got to protect my peace.
Right.
You know?
That's
And
Right,
it's
when maybe if they set more boundaries, the
Exactly.
friendship could still exist, but you have
Right.
boundaries and you teach them how to treat you.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I find that they cut off a lot of people too early,
Right.
and without resolving anything, and so
Yeah.
you just don't
And
know.
I've
how
done
to-
that.
And then now you don't develop the characteristics of patience.
Yeah.
Some things require patience, but some things require a confrontation. And
Right.
you just have to learn
And it's
which
all
one
about
is
your tone.
appropriate.
That's something I've learned. It's all about your tone.
Yeah.
You know, because you can have a confrontation. It does not have to be aggressive.
Right.
It can just be assertive, and then that's it. And then you find that, you could get some answers. A lot of times the person that you're even being just assertive with, they'll probably just either A, they won't do it anymore, or B, they'll probably just not necessarily cut you off, but
Distance themselves. But the thing is, I think that when you set the boundaries, if you should probably go the route of setting the boundaries first, see what happens. If they stop doing it because you set boundaries and asserted yourself, then that's a friendship to continue. And if you do that first, and then they're still not treating you well, then it's a time to distance yourself. But I would definitely say is that a consensus to what everybody thinks?
yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I think authenticity is very important. And I don't think you're very authentic if you
Just cut
practice always, being nice and not addressing things. I think
Yeah.
that authenticity is super important.
I agree. All right, guys, what do you think?